Come, spellweavers, reavers, rogues, and men-at-arms, and answer the call of adventure. Pick up your sword, your axe, your spellbook, your bow, your rulebook, and your dice, and join the forces of good in their eternal fight against vile monsters, conspiring min-maxers, horny bards, and blood-soaked murder hobos. Discover the treasure trove of role-playing games here on Rollin Bones. My name is Ryan Howard, and I shall be your guide. Good evening, Boneheads, and welcome back to Rollin Bones with Ryan Howard, where we are making old school young again. I'm your host and king of the Boneheads, Ryan Howard, and welcome to another edition of Get in the Ring. I've got Wonkee on here with me. We're going to be talking all about quality control in your products, whether it's good to put out a bunch of smaller products all at once or, really save up and do quality singular quality products. We're going to talk a little bit about AI. Of course, you know what that means. We're going to be talking about tripod cows again. So I'm going to bring him on in just a second. But before I do, I want to remind everyone to like, share, and subscribe. That is the best way to reach us here on Rollin Bones. The best way to kind of share the algorithm, give us that little bump so that we can keep things going here. Also want to remind everyone that you can find me on various social media platforms, including X and Instagram. On Instagram and X, I am at Howard_Ryan Gregg. Thank you, and a big shout out to those of you who are watching live on X right now. I'm glad that you have decided to support me on that side of things. I promise you guys that the threads will come back to X. I've just been very busy the past couple weeks. A lot of IRL stuff, and also a lot of preparation for North Texas RPG Convention, which we'll probably talk about a little bit here today too. You can also find me on Twitch at twitch.tv/RollinBones, Ryan, and then on Substack, it is rollinbones.substack.com. That is where you can find my play reports. I will have one of those up at the end of this week. And that's also where you can see some of my more thought out, more constructed thoughts than what I'll be putting on, Twitter threads. I'm trying to kind of find a balance between doing those two things. So, that's going to be something that I am working on as we move forward. So that is what I have for you guys as far as shilling and promotion. So, as long as he is ready, let's go ahead and bring on the man, the myth, the legend, my creative partner, one of my best friends in the whole wide world. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome back to Rollin Bones. Let's get in the ring, Wonkee. Let's see. You are showing as muted right now. All right, guys. Wonkee will be on in just a minute. He is currently dealing with some technical issues. I thought we were good to go there, but guess not. So while we wait for him, let's take a look at some of the people in chat here. Malachi, what's up? Rex Teal, welcome. Lincoln Martin. You are asking about Nighthaven with firearms. They are not going to be saving throws, and they are not going to bypass armor. The thing about black powder firearms is they actually weren't armor piercing the way that people think they were. At certain ranges, yes, they were, and certain black powder arms certainly were, but the historical accuracy of this show is suspect at best. But there are episodes of Deadliest Warrior from Spike TV. If you guys, remember that show, and there was an episode where it was a pirate versus a knight, and they actually shot a breastplate at point blank range with a smoothbore pistol, and it did not make a dent in the armor. So basically, I'm just kind of handling it like a crossbow. I'm handling it like any other ranged attack. It's just going to be does slightly more damage just because of the propellant that's behind it. So that's how Nighthaven is going to be handling firearms. And there's a couple more things that go into it, but yeah, it's not a save. It's not going to bypass armor, and it's not going to be like a dexterity thing. It's just going to be treated like a normal ranged attack.
A wild Wonkee appears. Random encounter.
There
I
he
am
is.
so sorry about that, everybody. Hello and welcome. I was having some audio issues with everything going on. My bad about that. Hello, Ryan. Thank you for having me on today. I'm super excited for our chat. This is going to kick ass. Let's rock.
It's going to be amazing.
Little bit of sweat and embarrassment.
Mm-hmm. So I mentioned it, and I've kind of been meaning to ask you about this show. Do you have any affinity or memory of Deadliest Warrior?
I thought it was cheesy when it was going on, and I didn't like the parameters for which they set because they weren't to the historical context in which things were done. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like, that's just not how people fought, so I don't think it was really fair as a show. I thought it was cool, eye candy, and
Mm-hmm.
gave me lots to think about.
Yep.
And I remember it having these cool kind of breakdown scenes where it would like show how things would play out, and that was always fun, kind of for like a sci-fi channel original fantasy movie kind of vibe.
Yeah. Yeah, those I have to agree with you on that, because those like some of the parameters for weapons tests they did and some of the conclusions that they drew from those tests, I'll never forget. And it was Spetsnaz versus Green Berets.
Mm.
And the weapon matchup was the M9 pistol. So the Beretta. Uh, why did that specific Beretta model just go? The 9mm Beretta, that was the service weapon for the United States for years and years, versus a Makarov. There's a very clear winner here. Just like on paper, you look at these two weapons, you know which one you'd rather have in battle with you. But then
Yeah.
the test they set up was, you guys are going to put, it's dark outside on the range, so you're going to put on night vision goggles, you're going to run in a straight line and shoot at these targets.
And next episode we'll have, a Mesopotamian like chariot person up against like an Apache warrior. Like they'll just do random shit in
Yeah.
that show. I don't get it. It's a fun idea. I wish it would have been cooler executed. I didn't really watch much, to be honest. I don't have a lot to talk about on that one. I was like, oh, this kind of cheesy. All right.
The one thing I appreciated about it, and I think this is why Crafty also has a bit of an affinity for it. It goes to show you that like men never get out of this playground mentality of whose dad can beat up who else's dad.
That's
You
fair.
It's like, as we grow up, we just find new ways to kind of carry out this argument. And so watching like two sets of grown men argue about which historical warrior would kick the other one's
It's
ass is
true.
just
When the
endlessly
answer's obviously
hilarious.
my dad.
Yes.
Duh, like you fucking idiots.
Mhm.
I love it. So what are we talking about? This is Get in the Ring Part 2. We are coming
Mhm.
at this series with a little bit of an idea in mind. Last time we kind of talked about starting up a project of your own, how to go about it, and a lot of the like philosophical questions that kind of come with that. Where are we going today?
So today, there have been some interesting questions that have been raised kind of around this continuous, interminable AI discourse.
Mm, yeah,
And a lot of the pro AI arguments that I've seen have been somewhere in the neighborhood of, this allows me to work faster so I can put out quality, so I can put out more books of quality in a shorter amount of time. And I kind of want to just take that statement apart, because it's like every aspect of it except for the more part I disagree with. Yes, you are putting out more. Is it of quality, and is it actually like saving you time? I think that's kind of
Okay. I
where I
think
want to
this
go
is
with
going to be
this.
really fun too because, I am a full-time freelance artist working in the fantasy genre. That is what
Mhm.
I do. This is a direct competitor when people are talking about this and me because it's not like one of my buddy artists. They're not like, "Yeah, I have this awesome piece from Ed Bickford," because I'm always excited like, "Yeah, that piece kicks ass." This is a weird alien machine creeping on in. And
Yeah.
so there's a lot that goes into it. But I've been trying to be really open-minded, so I'm going to even at some points try and steel man against you and try and take their side and validate some of these points because, maybe you can produce a lot more for sure, but maybe it is better than what they would have done if without it, which might have been nothing at all.
Maybe.
There's lots to talk about here, so let's delve in because I'm excited.
Hmm. So this is going to be kind of an odd starting point, but
Yeah, it
I
is.
think this kind of lies at the core of the argument. When you look at role playing books in the past,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm thinking White Box D&D and Traveler in particular,
Okay.
there's not a whole lot of art to be found in those books.
Mm.
And I know that there are some people, in fact, I know there are some people watching the show right now that would argue that those are some of the finest role playing games ever committed to paper. So I guess the question that I have is it so essential that your book have art in it that you absolutely must use AI art if you can't afford any physical art at all? Like, is putting art in your role playing book so essential to just like the product now that if you
Wonderful.
can't pay for a human to do your illustrations, you need to do AI art or public domain art or whatever to just get something in your book?
Oh, there's lots to talk about there. Okay, so I think this can even be tied back to our last episode in that art not always should, but oftentimes is used intentionally with a purpose to convey some sort of meaning, some sort of message, or anything else like that. And so with that, there's lots of things that are art related that I don't particularly consider important, but that do add a little bit of extra spice. Because what I'm thinking is like White Box and stuff, they were masterfully written books. I
Yeah.
love them. This is the entire foundation of what we're doing here. But I also have come to appreciate lots of little stupid things like little filler art and cool buttons and, little extra details and doodads here and there. And my kind of question oftentimes comes down to the actual creative choices of why people choose to include art pieces where, when, and, that kind of thing. Because I do agree with what you're saying in that you really don't need a lot of art. Theoretically, everything that we're doing can be done theater of the mind. If you can write out a good description, you can paint a picture just as well in someone's head. And even then, I'm not sure it's the job of the adventure writer to do that. But what we're also trying to do is convey a theoretical design space for other people to play in. And I think it's silly to exclude the idea that visual imagery cannot convey, I'm not talking about like emotional, spiritual meaning, but like actual information to the people reading it.
Mhm.
I think used in tandem correctly in the proper proportions is where you're finding a sweet spot. But my whole point kind of comes back to I think a lot of people are doing what other people are doing just because they think they're supposed to do it.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. And Crafty Matt makes a point here in chat. He says that art needs to be minimalist. I think the way that I would phrase that is art needs to be where it's essential to help you convey what you're trying to convey. So if you are describing a monster that's not immediately familiar to people or doesn't have kind of elements that are immediately familiar to people, it's helpful to have an image there so that you can see, oh, that's what a troglodyte looks like. I didn't have a good image of that in my mind from the descriptive text, so it's helpful to have this image of this lizard with a a javelin in his hand. Um, but there are so many people out there, because there's just this, like, every book ever written, it seems, is like at everyone's fingertips. And so there are a lot of people who have not ever gotten past the copy what others have done stage of creation. And so they're like, I'm going to put a picture of a warrior here because there's a picture of a warrior in a similar section in a book that I like. And they don't really understand why that was placed there. Or maybe even the book they're copying didn't understand why, putting a particular image here was essential to the flow of the book.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd agree with that. I don't think it's a well-hidden secret that I put absolutely no value towards minimalism.
Yeah.
And so I really disagree fundamentally with Crafty Matt. I think that's taste is what that comes down to. I like extravagant, over the top, and in my face.
Mhm.
Um, it's not always the easiest to process, but I find interest and value in the reading experience and how it benefits from things like side border art and, background illustration, that kind of thing. I also think that, where am I trying to go with this? I don't think complexity to anything is inherently bad if it's well structured and thought out and done with intention, I
Yeah.
guess is what it kind of comes down to for me. And I keep going back to Mordheim as one of the most beautiful books I've ever seen in my entire life. Or like lots of the old GW stuff. It's absolutely gorgeous. Nothing about it is minimalist, but I'd take that over 99.999% of OSR products any day of the week because it's taste. Um, that doesn't mean people aren't writing good stuff. I love,
Mhm.
like, what things have to offer for the reasons that they do, and I think it's cool to branch out and do your own thing within that. Because like there's definitely room for minimalism. People have shown that through market viability. Um, I forgot your second point though. I kind of focused on that.
Well, to kind of play off of that, because we've got some comments here. Um, Chris Lundgren mentions one of my favorite whipping boys here. That is uh, Merkberg, or Mukbang if you're Victor Gorchev. Um, Morkborg, for those of you who don't know what I'm talking about. This is this is one of those things, and Wonky and I have talked about this before.
A
Um,
lot.
yeah, specifically because we are approaching Guts and Glory as we want to deliver something that is aesthetically appealing and something that really does kind of grab people both visually and in the words that we've written. But when you look at Morkborg, what you have is, it's beyond style over substance. It's style to cover up for a lack of substance. It's flash over readability and functionality, because at the end of the day, there's nothing functional to take from Morkborg. It's
Right.
just this,
Noise.
yeah, noise and like black metal aesthetic that, and
Yeah.
when you talk to people who claim to play Morkborg, you're like, how do you play it? They're like, well, I add this and this from this other game. And I'm like, okay, you're not playing Morkborg then. You've made a Franken game and you just like looking at the art.
Right. I just have to circle back to my focus on it has to be well structured with intention. The visual additions can be complementary to text. They
Mhm.
don't have to be in direct opposition, such as making a statement like that.
Yeah. Yeah, but I mean, Rex Teal here mentions Classic Traveler. That's a game, and I know I already mentioned it, but that's a
Yeah.
game that has barely any art. But based on what Classic Traveler is at its core, the minimalism makes a lot of sense, because it's like tramp freighter sci-fi. It's grungy, dirty sci-fi, and so it's reading through Traveler with its lack of art is kind of like reading through a cargo manifest for like the ship from Alien or something like that. You get that
Yeah,
same feeling, and it really kind of puts you in that right mindset. So
well spoken.
I think it really serves the game very well. Um, but that's just one game and one example.
Hmm. I've never played Traveler. I don't got much to add there.
I have not played Traveler either. I've read through the books, but I've not gotten a chance to play yet.
I've watched over the shoulder as someone else was reading a Traveler book. And so that's about the limit to my extent. I see what you mean by the, alien style ship log, though.
So, in kind of to bring AI into this conversation, there are a lot of people who seem to have the same mindset of, I want art that serves the game. But what they end up doing is, taking a look at how much art costs or taking a look at the kind of art they want. Really, I think a lot of this is mismatched expectations for like what your project can be or should be. They're like,
Ooh, that's a hard pill to swallow there. Yeah. Ooh, yeah.
I think a lot of people I think a lot of people in their hearts are like, I want an Errol Otis painting in every single full page, half page, and quarter page, only to realize that, putting an Errol Otis or a Larry Elmore or something like that, like those are high dollar pieces. You don't understand how much those cost.
And it
And
adds up quick is the big thing, because when you're looking at a solo piece for a cover, it can be a hefty chunk, and you
yeah,
might be willing to bite that bullet because it's your cover.
mhm,
If you're wanting to do legendary artists throughout the interior, good luck. I don't know who's making that kind of money outside of the top 1% of Kickstarters. I don't know
yeah.
if Watsy can afford that.
Mhm. And when you look at Greg's book's a good example. Greg Gillespie,
Great
Dragon
example.
Slayer. People have asked about the costs of those PDFs and the cost of that book. When you look at the people that he hired to do his interior, that's why everything costs so much for Dragon Slayer. Um, he did not skimp on the art budget, and to
Not
make
at
up for
all.
that, he put what some would probably call maybe too high of a price tag on his book, which I certainly think like $35 for a PDF is way too much. But that was the choice that Greg made. And now he's kind of saying, all right, this is what I'm going to do. Do you want to buy it? Is it worth that much to you? Um,
My vote is yes.
yeah. So that's an option, but then you have the people who come to the realization that I can't afford to put Larry Elmore on every page of my book, and if I asked Larry to do that, he would laugh at me. um, what do I do now? How do I have my cake and eat it too? And so they turn to these AI tools and they put in prompts like, give me a paladin fighting a pack of demons in the style of a paladin in hell, in the style of why did I just forget his name? It's my favorite art piece ever, and I just forgot the artist's name.
I believe in you. I know
But they
this
just
piece.
they put that in the prompt, and they're like, all right, this is you know it spits out something, and they're like, okay, this looks close enough. And at
Mm,
first pass, it looks close enough. But then you take a second look, and I think most of these people aren't taking a second look.
yeah, this ties into something I've noticed with designers who are choosing to use a lot of AI programs. Now, There's a thing that happens when you create a project, especially when you're collaborating or working with multiple artists. If you have a giant team of 100 artists and you need 100 pieces for that book, you're probably going to have a very scattered and weird range of pieces. But oftentimes you need, maybe 10, 20, something like that. And you'll hire a couple people out and maybe find something here and there. And everything kind of ties together pretty well because you want your black and white line work. That's the style you're going with. You want to go with a more minimalistic thing. Awesome. So you find the people that can do this.
Mhm.
But the thing I'm starting to notice is that a lot of these people adopting AI resources are doing it really quick, and I'm seeing it's not a cart before the horse mentality, but what it comes down to is a lot of people think they're like really good visual designers that understand composition and these kind of things, and their books look really bad. It's not that AI can't be used very efficiently to produce a product you want, because that's very possible. Like, lots of people that know what they're doing in this field can do that. But we have kind of a dilettante dabbler thing going on
Yeah.
where you're pulling resources and you don't understand really how to cook with them.
Mhm.
And so you end up with a really bad looking cheap mix mash. It looks worse than stock art bundles.
Yeah.
It looks worse than Creative Commons, the things you're pulling from, because it's random. You're not pulling with any intention oftentimes, and you might think you are, but oftentimes these people aren't trained in these kind of things and know what to look for. So it's just this blender of I don't even know what to call it. It's confused.
Yeah.
It's like a body with no skeleton kind of a thing going on.
Mhm. Yeah, we're in this era of kind of like one man band creators.
Yeah.
And there are some people who do that extremely well. Those
Mm-hmm.
people are few and far between. I am talking to one of them right now. You do that very well.
I'm trying,
Um,
baby. We're going.
but they're like not everyone can do that. And so
No.
when you have people who are trying to do this on an absolute shoestring, they are writing, they are doing their own art, or they're doing AI art, they're doing their own layout, they're doing everything themselves. Something is going to break down, something's going to fall apart there. And with a lot of these guys, especially the ones who are not at all artists, the one who lean so heavily on AI art, they don't know what they don't know about art, so it spits out something that looks, right at first glance. They go, "Great, that's amazing," and then they immediately take it to Twitter and are like, "Look at this amazing piece," and then people like me pop in and go, "That cow's a tripod."
Yeah, it's interesting to see how it's affecting and rippling outwards from there. Because, like, this is the creators, and then it goes out to the artists who are working in scene, and there's been a lot of people dropping out because of it. That's a big thing. And
Mhm.
it's interesting because people are finding their own motivations to continue pursuing these arts, and for me personally, it's just love of the game. Um, but I'm actually kind of excited that people are going to have more agency in their own hands because maybe there are good and useful ways to use tools like these to benefit projects. I haven't particularly seen it, I don't know about it, but I'm not cutting out options because here's a really important story. And this entire last couple years, I've been thinking about it nonstop. Andrew Loomis, one of the masters of figure drawing, he wrote early on, and I think it was his book Creative Illustration, about how there was an entire wave of people that tried to fight the camera when it came out because everyone was painting for products at that point in time. If you wanted some bananas painted, you got a person to do it. You didn't just have a fancy machine. A lot of people didn't adapt and learn to go with the flow, and they did get cut out. That's just going to happen with AI. And so I think instead of being completely shunning it, I'm interested to see where it goes. And I'm not even concerned with the ethics, the responsibility of it, and all that garbage. What I want to see people do is make really cool shit they really care about. And that's all I care about at the end of the day. I don't really fiddle with the means and how you get there. But in this new technology emerging, I'm seeing a lot of people head down a lot of red flag paths, and it's like, oh no.
Hmm.
And that's more my concern is I think, like you said, people will take to Twitter with this image dump of 100 things that they're really proud of, and it's cheap. So what happens when you put a really cool thought, something you actually cared about, but you cheaped out in the effort or the production or something like that? You're not going to get that fulfillment you would feel at the end if you really put heart and soul and thought everything out, you know?
Yep.
What I'm worried about is like an actual, like a loss of not and hope, not interest. There's something there. There's the misfits. You gave me life but took the soul away kind of a thing going on
Yep.
here, and that's where I'm really staring the beast in the face.
Hmm. Well, the other thing with these, some people call them AI bros. A lot of
I've
these
never heard
people
that. That's great.
that
Yeah,
that's a basic expert invention. So credit where
nice.
credit's due there.
I love
Um,
Basic Expert.
he's great,
So good.
but like you talked, and I mentioned this last week. I had a run in with the chinless church burner Varge on
You cut him
Twitter.
up.
I did. I told him his art was ugly. Um,
And that your dad would beat up his dad.
but like he's going on and on. He's like, this looks just as good as your regular art. He's talking to the basic expert with this. And John is a great artist. John
Yeah,
has good looking
absolutely.
stuff.
Very, very good. I was impressed when I first saw his stuff. Like,
Mhm.
damn, that's good. I like.
But he's like, this looks just as good. So, there goes your argument down the toilet. And then that's when I'm like, this is a tripod cow, and your lion has no arms, and you're a complete fraud. Why don't like just shut up and leave? But you get these people who they're like, all I did was, put in these prompts, and they want to tout just how amazing their art looks. They're talking about how, fantastic that invisible suit of clothes they made for the emperor was, or something like that. They don't understand, or they refuse to understand that no, you have not like captured artistic talent in a machine. All you're doing is making yourself look stupid because you won't admit that you cut a corner here, and that you are sacrificing something for the sake of expediency. You're trying to convince everyone who's looking at you, but also yourself, that this is just as good as the right way.
The truth does not require participation to exist. Bullshit does. We're
Yeah.
coming to face a very serious problem that I don't think a lot of people are looking at, and I'm going to be at least the first I know of to say it, though, because it kind of goes back to what I was just talking about and what you're talking about now, in a way that it looks just as good. I'm not gonna lie, a lot of AI art looks pretty good, honestly. I mean, there's lots of mishaps and funky schnaz that comes out of it, but I've seen plenty of pieces that can pass as cool art. I'm not particularly biased in that sense. We are going to come to a point, though, with so the RPG scene isn't known for making a lot of money. I
Right.
think we could agree to that,
Yeah.
right? Okay, and with that, you don't have a lot of money coming in for your book that you're putting out. Maybe you make a couple grand on Kickstarter, and you don't really have a lot of an art budget after, we're finding this out for ourselves right now
Yep.
is, between printing costs, shipping, and everything, it totals up so quickly. So here's a real conundrum we're about to face, and it's going to hit like an earthquake. No
Mhm.
one's going to work for the RPG scene in like a couple years.
Right.
Here's why. No one's making money. There is no impetus for young fledgling people to compete. I'm seeing these, aspiring artists and novice, the amateurs, they're dropping like flies left and right because it's no longer competitive at that level. And so when there's not a lot of people willing to take RPG work, the selection pool of available artists goes down, and more people are going to be confronted with the necessity of AI, Creative Commons, stock art, these other options. where do we go with that? Because I don't think a lot of people are talking about that. If AI dropped where I was at in my career 5 years ago, I would have had to quit. I would not have made money. It's
Hmm.
just that simple.
Yep.
I wouldn't have gotten here. And like I feel for people. This isn't an easy thing because like as a creator on either side, as a writer, I don't know what I do. What do I do? I have $800 to get 20 illustrations, a nice enough cover to do something with. Like there's not a lot of wiggle room here.
Yep. Yeah, it does kind of turn into almost the great filter. And so there are going to be a certain number of people who can get to the point where they have mastered their craft so much that they can compete with the AI and they can really stand out above them. But that's not going to be the majority of artists. So I see what you're saying there. It is going to be kind of a dark day where your mid and lower tiers evaporate because they can't sustain themselves.
Yeah, that's about as clean as you can cut that grass.
Hmm.
I don't see a way around it either. It's like the fighting of the camera. You don't win. The genie's out of the bottle.
Yep.
So what I want to do is come up with interesting, creative, encouraging, productive ways that can actually help people use AI. So I haven't really dabbled around too much with it yet. But I started, just the meta AI thing. It's like that chat. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah. Yeah. I know what you're
Okay.
talking about.
I, for the longest time, just pushed all that to the side. I don't need it. I don't want it. And then I accidentally clicked it and I started asking it all kinds of questions. And it led me to start asking a variety of questions about how it can make me a better artist. And I'm not talking about giving me compositions, I'm not talking about these kind of things, but the actual applicable uses for creative people to use AI programs is insane. I think I've just like cocooned out of something because this is going to help me structure better work routines, help me, all kinds of little things, but I'm not doing it for creative work.
Mhm.
That's a me choice. And everyone's going to have to accept at one point or another that they're going to have to make a choice for themselves on how comfortable they really are integrating new technologies into their lives.
Yep.
Um, so far I haven't really gotten anything really outstanding or life changing, but just the idea that, because like I have all kinds of, I probably have $2,000 of educational resources surrounding me, but I'm a scatterbrained creep. Like I don't have the constant mentor energy and that kind of a thing. So if I can find ways to help me, here's a great example. I don't really like practicing gesture drawing. Basically, that's how human bodies move and flow in different shapes. You see that kind of thing with like quick sketches. And so I asked it, basically, like, it was something along the lines of I am currently practicing human figure drawing, and I would like you to help me develop a method of practicing every day geared towards repeatability under the notion of gamification. So, like, everything
Mhm.
has to be a game. And together we came up with something I actually want to play. It's basically like a kind of a weird little guessing game that I'm going to do every morning as a warm up. I'm still the one drawing and sketching, but I wouldn't have came up with that idea. So I'm just saying, like, I don't want to shut it down and shoot it
Yep.
dead. Is kind of where I'm at.
Yeah, and even incorporating it into the actual creative process, I can see people using it as kind of like a pre-thumbnail type solution where, can I like how does this concept look? Can I generate something that's adjacent to this particular concept that I have in my head? See it and then go, okay, this could work or this isn't going to work. Let me go back to the drawing board.
That's amazing. What a good use for AI tools, even AI image making. So oftentimes, I work in industry. I'm always going through people's files as they're writing them. And so, I'm seeing behind the scenes documents every day of my life. Now,
Mhm.
oftentimes for page fillers, people will just put in either like in parentheses, half page, full, page, whatever. Or they'll put in like some kind of a big square block as an X. I could totally see you using something like just a shitty pre-generated image, kind of the right vibe to help you with the feel flow, being a placeholder and a visual recognition milestone. There's
Yeah.
all kinds of uses for that. Good. That's awesome, Ryan.
Hmm. So yeah, like it is a new technology, and like all technology, it's a tool to be utilized in certain ways. It's just a matter of finding the appropriate places to use them. And
Mm.
I personally, I don't think an appropriate place to use them is as feature artwork in your game that you consider to be your baby. I don't think that's your using tools effectively at that point.
It might take a minute, but I'll find a good counter argument. I don't know where it's at. I'll find it though. Yeah, no, I agree with you wholeheartedly on that. For
Mhm.
serious. It's one of those things where, and also what I really don't like about, as you called them, AI bros, is when they kind of do the weird snarky rub it in your face, like, yeah, this looks like AI art, and then they'll post like, how would you even tell? What do you know? Blah 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 blah, and it's like, it has a look. I don't know what you want. Like, there's nothing else that smells like patchouli.
Yeah,
I don't know what you want. It looks like AI.
yeah, yeah. You can, and this kind of gets into some of the stuff that I always say you can tell. What I mean is I can tell, because I think there might be, unfortunately, a large percentage of people out there who can't tell. It's I've compared it to the Voight-Kampff test from Blade Runner. It's like if you can identify that this is not a real image, then congratulations, you're a human.
That's fantastic. Interesting. Interesting. Yeah, though, it's also, I really gotta be a harp hard on this, is if you are going to be using AI processed images, it's not an excuse to be a lazy sack of shit, because
Yeah.
no one wants that. Varg, I'm calling you out. If you spent 20 minutes looking at the things that you're so proud of, everyone can see flaws in it. I'm not even picking on you, but don't fucking be all high and mighty. I worked 300 hours getting a cover done, and then I did another 100 on another cover. You ain't shit, bitch.
Mhm.
Sorry, that was a little intense. No, I'm. Don't pretend. We're not the same. You're ordering a Big Mac. I'm making food.
Yeah.
I'm over that at this
Mhm.
point. If people are trying to push that narrative still, kick rocks.
Yeah, and that's one of those things about it, I mean, you made a good comparison there. AI art is like fast food, and we're seeing right now the consequences of relying on fast food to be the primary staple of your diet. It's not real food, it's not nutritious, it's not good for you.
I wonder what the long-term outcomes are, though, because when you compare it to fast food like that, everyone kind of associates fast food with negative health and that kind
Mhm.
of thing. I wonder if over reliance on artificial tools to take an easier method, not just something that's like within your means or options, but to just make things as simple as possible. I wonder if that will make your project sick.
Yeah. I like, honestly, I think it does make your project sick because it puts you in this mentality of good enough, and this is why I called the stream quality control,
Whoa.
because when you start to rely on these things as a crutch, that's what you're saying. It's good enough. It's good enough. And if all you care about is shitting out 50 books a year, sure, be, good enough. Not every shadow novel was a 10 out of 10 classic. The writer was cranking those things out by the dozen. Um, but that's all you're ever going to be is sufficient. You're not going to create anything that's truly meaningful when you work in that way. And a lot of what people are going to be putting out is not even going to be good enough. It's just going to be disposable crap.
Help me out because I'm coming to something I really don't know the answer on and I want to hear you talk. Is it wrong to settle for good enough? So here's our thing. We are coming
Hmm.
at Guts and Glory with like, let's put in maximum highest level effort we possibly can to make the coolest thing we possibly can. That's us. That's our style. That's what we're doing. Is it wrong that people just want to have fun and make some cool shit? Because that's another thing. I don't really see. If you just want to, in your spare time, you work a really hard 9 to 5, you're in a cubicle all day, you don't have time or money to do this shit, but you want to participate, you want to have fun. I don't want to exclude people that just don't maybe even have the will to really follow through, maybe the motivation or maybe the reason to do so.
Mhm.
I don't think that's necessarily unfair, right? Or
Why put time into half-assing something? That's where I'm at. Like,
yeah.
why, if you're not going to try to be the, let me use an example, and you guys are going to have to forgive me. This is yet another wrestling example. I know y'all might be getting sick of me doing this. So, who out there has heard of Diamond Dallas Page? I'm sure several of you probably have.
You got some people really hyped right there. Like, yeah, yeah.
DDP, Diamond Dallas Page, started wrestling in his mid 30s, which is way too old to begin your wrestling career. Um, he, was getting better as a wrestler. He was getting better, and he was under the mentorship of the American Dream, Dusty Rhodes, one of the absolute legends of professional wrestling. And Dusty was talking to him, and he said, here, I'll even do the voice for those of you wrestling fans. Yeah, you hit looking really good, kid. And DDP said, Dream, uh, I think, I'm doing really well. I don't think I'll ever be world champion, but I think I'll do okay. And Dusty Rhodes looked at DDP and said, "If you don't think you can be the champion, kid, you need to get the hell out of here."
mm, mm,
And so that's
mm.
that's kind of the mindset that I put myself in. Um,
I like it.
you are you're getting in the ring. What's the title of our show here? Get in the
Yeah,
ring. If you are getting in the ring to be a tomato can, all you're going to end up with is CTE. If you want to get in the
yeah.
ring, you need to be in if you're not in it to win it, get the hell out of Kuwait.
I'm with you. Yep, totally sold me on it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought I had a really good kind of point, but honestly, just have it take longer. If you really are limited in time, funds, everything else, make sure it's something you really care about. Put your heart and soul in it too. Don't half-ass this life. You'll regret it. I totally agree with you. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Mhm.
Cool.
Like
Heck yeah.
what do we need? I don't want to say what do we need hobbyists for, because this is a hobby at the end of the day. We're selling to hobbyists. But even with your hobbies, even with role playing games themselves, with playing role playing games, I got into an absolute knockdown drag out with people over whether or not you should actually play the game rules as written. You're you are putting yourself, like, you are putting time and effort and energy into doing a thing. Why would you not do that thing the best way you possibly could? Why would you not do it as correctly as possible? This is your most valuable resource, is your time
Yeah.
and your energy. Like, you are, if you're not going to do your absolute best, what the hell are you doing?
I'm with you. It's the more I think about it, I am completely on your side with this. Because I don't know, I would have to get into spirituality and shit, but I believe creating things is a spiritual act, and you should probably do it meaningfully. Yeah.
Mhm.
Wow. Kind of changed my mind about that whole thing because I was trying to really give a lot of sympathy for the dabbler. No, no, make it the best you can. First
Mhm.
off, if you're gonna ask money for for a product, make it shit people want to read.
Yeah.
I'm with you, and yeah, oh, could go down a whole different road. There's been plenty of times where expectations just fall flat. Wow, what a cool project this could have been if only you cared a little more.
Yeah.
Yeah, we can get a little sour there.
Mhm.
Interesting, interesting.
Well, and when you look at kind of the like arcs of people's career, whenever they start to go into neutral or whenever they go into just, uh, kind of rote going through the motions, that's when they falter. That's when they fall.
It's true.
It like when you get complacent, when you get comfortable is when that's when someone catches you from behind. That's that's the whole like message of Rocky 3, isn't it? At the beginning of Rocky 3, he's the champion. He's overcome the long odds. Then he gets comfortable and then someone young and hungry knocks him down a peg. That's life. That's what
It's
happens.
true.
And so you should never find yourself in good enough territory.
And you have such a good point with that. You know, the times I feel worst about myself as an artist are when I don't try my hardest. It's as simple as that. Is when I don't give my maximum attention and effort and everything I've got into whatever kind of a piece I'm doing for a client. I don't feel good about it. I can tell I didn't put my all into it when I sit back and look at it and say, wow, I really should have reworked that leg. The perspective's kind of goofy, but it's good enough. And then the client can tell too,
Yeah.
because this isn't as amazing as it could have been. Everybody knows it. You can't talk about it. It's a little secret, but it's a thing. It's very real. So if you're doing that with an entire project, you're doomed.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah.
Insightful.
Well, I don't know. It's one of those things. I've had a lot of time to think about this because you and I decided to get in this ring. You and I decided that we were gonna do this for or try to do this for a living. Uh, if
We
we're
will.
gonna do that, we owe it to our families. We owe it to the people who depend on us to do our best, so that we're not going to end up under a bridge somewhere. Um, it's something that not a lot of people think about until they find themselves in that situation. And so I encourage all of you aspiring creators out there or creators like myself who are just kind of getting started, really think about what it means to put your all, put your heart and soul into a project, because that's what you have to do every single time. And if you can't do that, then you're going to find yourself on the downward slide.
No truer words have ever been spoken. It's if you actually have an idea that's meaningful enough to follow through with as a real big project, as a real creative pursuit, it's fun to dabble around and do a little thing here or there. There's nothing wrong with practicing, of course. But if you're really going to go for it and shoot for the hoop, you are inherently failing yourself, your project, and everyone that wants to see it success if you don't put that sweat in and find good solutions. And we're going to have to find new solutions as we go on in time. Like we were talking about the artist drop earlier. It's things are going to be always changing, but also like not everything needs to be of that Larry Elmore status. I don't think there's anything wrong with you saying it's not going to be up to the standard I want it to be, but I'm going to start learning how to draw my own maps because I want to save some money and I want to see, this
Yep.
project to succeed to what it can be. I
Mhm.
think there's going to be a lot of tools that do allow people to open themselves up to potential growth in ways they couldn't have ever seen before with this modern age. But I also think that it doesn't make it easier.
Yep.
I think it just gives you lights on the highway to where you want to go,
Yeah.
you know? I don't know, I kind of went off in the weeds with that one. I had a good thought at the start of it.
Yeah. Well, and it's part of kind of understanding what your best is.
Yeah.
When like to use that example, I want to learn the process of map making, so I'm going to put my own maps in my games. Your first few maps are not going to be good, but they should be and hopefully will be the best that you can do at that time.
and people will be able to tell that you tried to do your best. I don't
Yeah.
know how it comes through, but I do believe that true effort really does shine through as an aspect all its own, that though it is tangential to many other facets of what we appreciate, is separate as its own thing. I don't know how, I don't know why, but I do believe that.
Hmm.
Like high effort just shows.
Yeah.
Or maybe it's mediocrity that shows.
I I think it is mediocrity that shows more than the actual effort, because a lot of people might not understand that there's effort put in, but they
Mm,
definitely understand when there's no effort put in or minimal
beautiful.
effort.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was trying to nip at. You totally nailed that. Hell yeah. Give me 2 seconds. Take the reins. I need to let my cat in. She's screaming. Be right
Yep,
back.
absolutely. So we got a couple questions here in chat. Earlier on, Diversity in Dragons, DD, welcome to the show. I think people will always pay for good human art. I agree with that. I think people will always pay for, now the essential qualifier here is good human art, and that's where AI kind of turns into the great filter, in my opinion. The bean mouth artists and the anime artists that you see on Twitter that are doing people's character art that they you know spam endlessly whenever you're trying to have a serious conversation about role playing, those people are gone as soon as like AI is possibly capable of replacing them. So, but I do agree with what you said here, Dee, that people will always pay for good human art.
Yes, 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 yes. Totally agree. And I think, honestly, I've said it before, but nothing has inspired me personally to get good at art more than AI, because I'm like, finally, some real competition in the room. Let's go, baby.
Hmm.
I think a lot of people are kind of finding more reverence towards their craft. I think a lot of people are practicing more traditionally because they're finding out what they appreciate about what they're doing when it's separated from industry. And
Hmm.
it's a really cool thing to see.
And I think we're, just as an industry, we're headed towards.
MCDM?
Oh God.
That too.
We're definitely headed towards that iceberg, but we're headed towards a down period because we're seeing the market leader basically try to hit every single obstacle they possibly can to tank this thing. We're seeing Watsy make every bad decision they possibly could make, and they're burning out all of the goodwill that they had built up over kind of the 5e era. And so now we're seeing people splinter in different directions, and we're seeing a lot of people explore with kind of smaller projects. And so we're gonna see a lot more like DIY minimalist, or not minimal, but like DIY small budget projects come about because of that. And so we're gonna have to learn how to live in that paradigm again.
Yeah, I have a personal theory. I know not everyone's gonna click with this, and I don't actually put like any emotional backing to it, really. It's not something I particularly care a lot about. But I've always kind of made this comparison between like 5th edition and WotC kind of reminds me of the Byzantine Empire. Well, I see a lot of OSR being kind of Holy Roman Empire going on, very, a little scattered here and there. And I'm not sure how how strong the grip of WotC really is over their empire right now,
Mhm.
and I'm interested to see what happens from there because I don't think this next edition's going to be incredibly popular personally.
Nope.
I don't know that though. Maybe MCDM comes in and whole new game.
Yep.
I don't know. It's just something to think about. Is like I don't. I wonder what happens there because I really don't see sustainability in that game over the course of even half a decade. And if they're trying to push this as their forever thing, they might have cats in a bag I don't know about. They probably do. Big company, a lot of money. Uh, um, but from the outside, it doesn't look good.
Hmm. So real quick, $10 super chat from Diversity and Dragons. Thank you for
Fucking
the
love
love
DD.
there. It's good to see you again too, DD. And he says that he loves Wonky's passion. We all do. That's why he's here.
Dude, so, oh, I love y'all. Ever since kind of like not just figuring out, but starting to explore and reach out and talk to all these cool people. Pretty much since you entered my life, Ryan, I have met so many kick-ass people. It's like, this is great. The world opened up as far as potential friends.
Hmm. Yeah, and that's what's been kind of cool about entering into this world, about getting into the ring. There are other gladiators that I've had the privilege of getting to know.
Yes. Yes, I love your terminology because that's what it feels like. Like, I do think that there is a lot of people settling for what is and what has been done, and then there's a whole nother group of people like Basic Expert, like fucking everyone we've been talking about that are saying, I'm kind of either like working within or rejecting completely this standard, but I'm doing what I want with the game and I'm running with it. You know, everyone that we've mentioned today is someone that is passionate about what they're doing and cares about what they're doing and is putting high effort into what they're doing. Besides Varg, fuck you.
Agreed. Go back to prison.
You might have liked it too much.
Yeah, I bet he did.
Probably gloating the whole time.
Crafty Matt
Anyway,
in chat, Wonky, you have not yet met me. Once you do, your life will change
will I
forever.
get a little smooch on the cheek? I think Crafty's gonna be fun. I've only really commented back and forth with you a little bit. I like your takes on most things. You're fun.
Crafty is fun. I've had the privilege of
Kind
hanging
of a
out with
wild card.
Crafty. He's a great dude.
I like outspoken people.
Hmm. But yeah, like I don't know. On one hand, it seems like there's a lot to be doom and gloom about, but on the other hand, why? Why? Why focus on the horrible, awful things when what we should be focusing on and what's more productive to focus on is what we can do to circumvent those horrible outcomes? What can we do to separate ourselves from these from these horrible outcomes? What can we do to build our fortress in these borderlands that we find ourselves in? Our keep on the borderlands, Wonky. That's what we need to build.
You figure out what you like, you dig your heels in, you show a little fang, and you don't budge.
Yeah.
And that's what Guts and Glory was founded on. I love so many people's products and so many people's games and projects. Like my battle jacket here is covered in different games. I got Dragon Slayer and MCC and DCC and I got all kinds of things on here. I love everyone's game, but I knew what I wanted to do and I'm not budging on it. And I think everyone that we've talked about is doing the exact same thing. I
Yeah.
think Greg Gillespie knows exactly what kind of game he wants to make, and he's doing that, and he's doing it better than anyone. I think Matt Finch knows exactly what rules he wants to be writing, and he's doing it better than anyone. They're passionate creators. They took the time to get good at it. Then they got gooder, and now they're kicking ass. That's just what you do. You find that hill like you're talking about, you know where you want to build your castle. My recommendation, don't try and take over someone else's castle. That'll make
Right.
them either not like you or you're going to change your values and ideals. I'm not, see, that's why I had such a hard time being like, I'm actually OSR. Of course I'm like super OSR. Like, of course I am. But I don't want to be confined to these predetermined notions of what that means. And so I had to break away from that. And that's just nomenclature. That's for my own personal, like, values and what I'm pursuing. And I think if you want to be a good creator in today's age, you need to figure out what that is. That probably means a whiteboard. That might mean some lined paper. I don't know. You have to figure out why you're actually doing this because it's hard work. And if you're trying to make it easier, you're cheating the muses. I don't know what else to tell you. and you're cheating everyone buying your product.
Mhm. Yeah, and that's I didn't struggle as much separating myself from OSR. Even though that I, like you, I was very influenced by the OSR. But what I realized very quickly was whatever I do can't be old because
Yes.
I'm not of that vintage.
Right.
Like I can't be OSR. I was not. I don't remember the '80s. I wasn't
Exactly.
alive.
It's
So
my biggest inspiration. And just for example, here's my drawing tablet that I work on all day. I literally stare at an OSR patch all day, every day. It's not like I don't care, and it's not like I don't have skin in the game. I just
hmm,
know what I want to do with it,
yeah,
And I think everyone, whether you're signing up for if you want to go right for MCDM, our favorite game, do it wholeheartedly. Make it learn what you're supposed to learn and figure out how the rules work and then figure out what other people have done and why they were successful and then figure out what you didn't like or really liked and latch onto that and you'll figure it out along the way. It's not hard per se. The thing that's hard is maybe being honest with what you want to do and maybe being honest with how hard not hard how much time it's going to take to get there, how
yeah.
much grind is actually involved. Because what I've noted throughout writing and art and all these different creative pursuits I do is patience has been very much inflicted upon me and I don't like it, but tedium's just the name of the game. You're staring at a page for 20 hours going feeling like lizard land brain. Like you got to learn to love it.
Hmm. Double D says OSR is always a state of mind to me. It is. It's an old school state of mind, but the thing about that, however you slice up the O and the S and the R, um, it's some kind of return, some kind of like resurgence of an idea, and I think that work has been completed. If
Yeah.
I'm being totally honest, when the OSR started, and I have to give Crafty Matt credit for this because he was the one who kind of first made this argument to me. When the OSR started, you couldn't just go on drive through and buy AD&D first edition or BX or something like that. WotC was keeping those in a vault and not re-releasing them. So those, like, the retro clones had a utility at that point. You have to get people to realize what these games were and get them back into that mindset. This mindset is very much alive now, and it's influencing people of our generation. So OSR, your work is done. Your work is complete. Now it's our turn.
I can't be my father, but I can make him proud.
Yes. All we can do is take the lessons that you guys taught us, and now we have to make something new with it. That is our duty. So whatever we make, it can't be OSR because it can't be old. It has to be new.
Because we're new.
Yeah,
We
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 are.
literally weren't there. The retro fetishism has nothing for me because it just doesn't.
Yeah.
Like I wish it did. I wish like I could remember the 80s,
Hmm.
but I no.
Yeah.
I don't. That doesn't mean I don't appreciate and love and adore I'm not going to say everything, but a lot of things that came out of those time frames. It's
Yeah.
fundamental to me and everything I became. It's just
Hmm.
I wasn't there.
And I take a lot of my inspiration even from before the '80s.
Yeah.
I take a lot of my inspiration from the '30s.
Yeah. We can go down pulp rabbit holes and further than that. I'm just reading a lot of history, like finally getting to European history.
Hmm.
Lots of interesting things.
Yeah.
I don't know where I was going with that though.
I think it's that phrase you said, I can't be my father, but I can make him proud.
Yeah.
That's kind of the approach that we have to take now as a new generation of creators. Is we are learning the lessons and taking inspiration from those that came before. We can't continue to just do what they did. We have to forge our own path. And so we just need to make sure that when we forge that path, and we kind of lead our predecessors to their final resting place. I For some reason I can't get away from Grognard's dying on this show, but
You're really on that one.
like want to make sure that they're comfortable with where we've taken them to
I
like
see what you mean.
spend their final days, that they're not, dying miserable, that everything they loved is now gone and in ruins. That's what we can do for them.
Oh, absolutely. There's nothing that would make me more proud than to have, one of those wonderful old dogs like Cask or something shaking, reading our thing, being like, this kicks ass. Nothing would make me happier.
Yep.
Wow.
Crafty Matt, you're taking us to the farm.
Where do we go from here, Mr. Ryan?
Man, honestly, I think that's kind of the long and short of the discussion. You have to, I guess, to put a bow on this. One of the things, or the main things you have to realize once you set out on this journey, is you have to be painfully aware of your limitations. You
Ouch.
have to be willing to work to either overcome or work within those limitations to the best of your ability. And you have
Or
to, oh,
work work to grow the ceiling of those limitations.
yes. And you have to realize that to reach your potential, to give all that you can possibly give to this project, it's a grind, it's tedious, it takes patience, it takes tenacity. That's what you have to accept when you step into the ring. That yes, you're going to get knocked down. It's, to quote Rocky again, it's not about how hard you hit, it's about how hard you can get hit and keep getting up.
That's the truth of it, And if we're not going with Rocky, we'll go with something a little sweet. It takes a lot of sucking at something before you can become a little good. It's just like, no matter how you phrase it, you're gonna get kicked in the teeth, eat a little shit, and have to grow. It takes courage. It's hard. I faced a lot of this myself. I cried in a shell for years because I was not courageous enough to do what we're doing right now. I feel you. You can do it though. And that's what I really want to leave people with, because I don't have much more to add on this. But you can do it, because if someone like me can, you're in good standings. You got this. Like, I think our world, especially, I will say, people of young people at this point in time have this very strong proclivity and tendency to sell themselves short in almost everything they do. And if you can find a way to get past that, you will make magic happen in your life. Doesn't matter what you're doing, you just kick ass.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And keep getting punched in the teeth regardless of how much it sucks.
Yep.
Get in the ring.
Get in the ring. All right, guys. Well, that's the final bell. That's going to be it for Get in the Ring tonight. We'll be back doing this again next month. Also, both of us are going to be at North Texas.
You ready to have some fun?
I am absolutely ready to have some fun.
Oh boy, we got an event planned.
Yeah. We're both running games. I think I've got a couple spots left in one of my games, and then I think you've got a few spots left in one of your games as well.
I'm so excited about it. Can I mention this just for a second?
Yeah, go
So
for it.
I don't know. He's a younger man. I don't know if I'm allowed to name drop him because he is a younger man, and I don't know if I want to disclose that. That's fine. But Bellafallo has a consistent player. He has been in like every NTX game that I've ran pretty much. I think he's been in like 8 sessions of Bellafallo, and he and his friend that played with me last year are two of the only people that are the two people that signed up for my one bunk time slot, because I did really weird time slots this year where you'd have to skip lunch and dinner to play my 6-hour game. very bad move. But it's just those two people signed up, and I am stupid excited because I'm going to give them the game of their life. If they keep coming back for more, like they played in, I think, 4 of my sessions last year.
Hmm.
So if they're the only two people signed up, I'm gonna give them the best run for their money. Like I'm gonna blow the con for them first day. The rest will be spent.
Mhm.
Yeah, so I'm looking forward to it. This is gonna rock. I'm excited to see you. I'm excited to see all my friends. I think there's gonna be some people that were in the chat maybe at North Texas. I think some of our mentor figures are gonna be at North Texas, and let's a party.
Yeah.
All right.
And speaking of North Texas and speaking of mentor figures, next week on Rollin Bones, this will be my go home show headed into North Texas. I'm not going to do on the week of North Texas so that I can spend at least a little bit of time with my wife before I go off to Texas for a weekend. But Jeff Talanian will be returning to
Oh,
Rollin
cool.
Bones next week. We're going to talk about his current Kickstarter campaign. We're probably going to talk about like running con games and how that helps you as a creative. So I'm excited about that. I love Jeff T.
Yeah.
He's a great guest. I'm looking forward to
Amazing
seeing him at
designer.
Texas too.
He is of the highest echelon of my respected designers, I swear. And would it be cool if I shot you 1 or 2 questions that you could ask him for me on the show that I think would
Yeah,
be very valuable questions? Cool. Yeah,
do
awesome.
it.
Hell yeah.
All right, guys. Well, that's going to be it for us tonight. And remember, whether you rolled a 1 or a 20, I'm so glad that you rolled your bones with me, Ryan Howard, and for myself and Wonky, get in the ring.